Hello and welcome to the Be Glad movement. My name's Pollyanna and I'm on a mission to bring you as many stories as possible of good coming out of bad and reasons to be glad. And this morning I'm joined by Michael. Say hello, Michael.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to do my usual and get out of the way and let you just dive straight into your story. So over to you.
Yeah, so I joined the military in 2000. I was 16. I joined the Royal Engineers and then did kind of, at that time, did the usual stuff, went through trade training and all the rest of it. Did a bit of skiing and played lots of rugby, but went to Iraq in 2003. So we crossed the border from Kuwait into Iraq on what was called Operation Telex, or the military operations in Iraq. So we did the kind of the war, and then went back about 5 or 6 months later to Optelic 3, and then decided actually, I wasn't really believing in what we were there for, and I was young as well, and decided to get out at the end of 2005. I then joined the fire service. Nearly 6 years in, then joined the fire service. Did about 9 years, but great time, great bunch of people I was working with then, and that transition for me was really easy as well. I didn't miss out on the camaraderie. I didn't miss out on anything. I transitioned really well from one to another, and it's almost a normal progression, really, or an obvious progression. But then 2015, I got a phone call, and we started hearing whispers, and then whispers got kind of louder, and we started hearing like our friends and friends of friends and people we knew were suffering from both physical and mental illness and injury. But it was the kind of PTSD stuff that was raising its head, and I didn't know what it was. And I'd had an issue in the fire service with a little baby and all the rest of it. But I went and spoke to people about that who'd been suffering from PTSD, that my military friends, and then we were like, look, I think we need to set something up where we can contribute to a military charity. So I was in the fire service. Des, a great mate of mine, was in the Middle East. Also, was in the Indian Ocean doing anti-piracy stuff. We'd both been in Germany together. I said, well, come back over. We'll set a little business up, and we'll give 10% of our profit away to a military charity. A charity that's helping PTSD combat stress or something like that. We'll just do that, and I'll stay in the fire service, and we'll have this little 2-van business. And then when he came over, we said, well, actually, what do we want to achieve from business? Because business is often seen as a force for bad, not paying tax, exploiting workers. And what do we want to do? So as a small business, we were really flexible. No one could tell us what we could do as long as we was keeping to the law and whatnot. So we said, what do we want? So we had this 4-point vision that on the kitchen table, we scribbled it out. We wanted to employ veterans, reservists, spouses and partners. So by doing that, we create a real solid team for us. It wasn't a charity case. It was actually getting the best people to do the job. And at this point, we didn't know what we wanted to do as a business. Sorry, can you hear that?
There's aeroplane.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's all right. Yeah. We didn't quite know what industry was going in, but I had a van and I was doing some pest control in the fire service on kind of like on a part-time basis, so rats and mice and bed bugs and all that kind of good stuff. So we knew that worked and it was profitable. We knew that the military community it was really well received in people's properties and people's businesses. So we could go in there and really make an impact, and people trusted us as well. So the number one, was employ. The second thing was educate and assist children in conflict. So that was really important to us. We understand and appreciate that the most vulnerable people on the planet are children in conflict. No matter where they're from, they're still children. So every domestic job we do, so if we come to your house and do a wasp nest, or we go to Mrs. Jones's house and do mice, we provide a day's education to a street child in Afghanistan. So, and I think it it was witnessing children in conflict and just they've got nothing, and
No.
it's often our foreign policy that impacts them in a negative way. So we then figured it out, and we found a link straight to that area, and so so we've done about 1,700 days of education in the last couple of years, but we also help clear minefields. So all of our commercial work clears it. So if we do a cafe in Richmond or Chiswick, then we clear at least 30 square meters of minefield. So 50% of all landmine injuries are children, and more often than not, those mines are laid years and years before those children are born. So that was our way of impacting education and then the mine clearance as well. And so we officially partnered with an organisation called a Popo, who train African pouch rats to go into minefields and find the explosives and the ordnance. So
sorry, say that again. They train rats to go in and
big rats, these African pouch rats. They train them from being tiny, and they go in and then they scratch at the surface where the mines are or the explosives are, and then the handler comes in, marks it, and then gets rid of it. So the rat's fine, they're too light to detonate, but they can find it. So I think it's like 20 times quicker than a human, much, much safer. So you're clearing mass amounts of minefield very quickly.
That's incredible.
So we sort the rats out in London.
Yeah.
We drop them off in Laos and Cambodia and Africa and do the bits there. And then we wanted to protect our customer. So we employ, educate, and we wanted to protect our clients. So it wasn't about the things we use, like the poison we use, but it's our approach and being innovative about our approach and using the skills, from the military, from the fire service. We've got guys who was in the military and the police and the military and the prison service, and using those skills about, creating a team and creating interdependency where we're all contributing to create the end objective. That end objective might be protecting someone's business, it might be protecting someone's health, it might be protecting someone's property, but it was always about protection and not about the rat or the mouse, because our team understand that by looking after someone, and that's the main thing. It's not about getting the cash in the register, it's about protecting that person. If we do that, then the work will follow and the reputation will follow. And we don't get it right all the time, but we're always open to change and open to getting better, I suppose. And I think it's the skills that the military gives us that allows us to be that open-minded and always pursue excellence and get better and better. And then the final thing on the list, so we got employ, educate, protect, and the last thing was support. And that was all supporting our injured service personnel, and it almost goes full circle to why we set the company up originally. So the company's called Combat Pest Control, so combat, kind of the double meaning, the military side, and then getting rid of stuff. But supporting our injured service personnel was really important, and so we'd raise funds, we'd do ultra marathons or bits and pieces, and we'd promote that within the company, and I'd advocate what meaningful employment is to people, and we won the Employee Recognition Scheme Gold Award, so with the Armed Forces Covenant. So we were the youngest and smallest company to have ever won that at the time, and we met Prince Harry, and it was all, I was like the little boy in the room with all these big CEOs of Sodexo and Tesco, and there's the little rat catchers in the corner. But we did it because setting up the business, we was authentic and we believe what we believe in, and we're doing lots of things, not just those 4 points, but really trying to support the military community and allowing the military community to support us as well. But in time, that supporting our injured service personnel, I think look back and I'm like, actually, I cringe a little bit because I didn't fully understand that I could do something, or we could create a project that injured service personnel would support everybody else. So we set up the podcast Declassified with just a really simple vision, really, of documenting military stories, but those stories had to be documented to give value, support, hope, guidance to everybody else, not just military personnel, but everybody, and that's what that's done, really, and that project is what we're proud of more than anything else we've achieved. We're about 16 episodes in, and we've had some great people from Brian Brian Wood, who was episode 1, who kind of was the catalyst really to push it forward, and we owe him a lot. We're good friends now, and people like Simon Harmer, who's a double amputee, and his story is amazing, and he's provided so much support, and it's there to stay as well. These conversations are there to stay; they're not going to go away. And it goes right the way through. We hit on subjects like PTSD and what it actually is, not a myth, about what it is. Actually, top psychiatrists came in and just explained it, and we've had people like David Wiseman who helped set up the Invictus Games, and he captained it, and he's an amazing character, like amazing and inspiration. I always keep popping up because that's what these people are. They're amazing, and they're very outward. They want to support other people with their story as well. That's been something, a real theme that the community's brought together. It's not about what I can gain from it. It's about what I can give to other people from the shared experiences. And we're covering subjects about the effects that it has on a spouse, or we've covered the ground. We've got some fantastic episodes coming up as well, where we've recorded them, and they're totally left field. Not what's what would people would expect this kind of podcast to be. We've tried to be very, very neutral and take incoming from all sides. But in doing so, it has supported our injured service personnel. Like, we've had guys, especially men. I say guys, especially men in this situation with the PTSD thing, where they've gone in touch with either myself or guests from guests from the podcast, and said, look, I was suicidal. I didn't know what to do. But now I know someone else is in the same boat because they've listened. It's not always about talking about something. The first step would be about listening, just actually understanding what the problem is, understanding that other people are around it, and people who've won the Military Cross, people who've been in the SAS, these big, strong characters can talk openly about a problem. And then by listening to that, then it might promote a conversation, and then it might be an action, and that action might be contacting the Samaritans, it might be contacting Combat Stress, it might be contacting the Veterans Gateway. Listening to a conversation, having a conversation, creating an action. That's what we found, and we found these people that were in dire straits, like we didn't know where to go, thought it was all about mental health, thought they were going crazy. When it gets explained that it might be a memory problem, or they've had injury, physical injury, and people are getting over it and progressing, and then they've created an action for themselves. And we've had some amazing things, military and civilian, where people have listened, had an initial conversation. Brian Wood was a perfect example. Someone contacted Brian, they had an hour conversation with a chap who was not military. The next day he was in therapy, and this guy was feeling suicidal. And I won't go into details, but this guy was going to probably do it. And then having a simple listening and having a simple conversation, he was then in therapy. I'm not quite sure what's happened now, because we just deal with everything. But it was a start for us. And one kind of term that's come out of it that a lot of people didn't know, and I certainly didn't coin it, it's been around for a long, long time, is post-traumatic growth, and that ability to develop and get better and more well-rounded and accepting of other people because of trauma. So, and I'm no psychiatrist. I do not know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I listen and then I do a little bit of research, but it's mainly that first-hand experience where you've experienced trauma, you might have gone through PTSD, or you might be with a partner who's got PTSD, or you might have a physical injury, or you might have just gone through a hard time as a child, but how have you grown, how you become better because of it? And that's the term that people need to be aware of. It doesn't end at the depression or the anxiety or the stress. It can end at the growth. Sure. And you might go back into it, but then it's understand that we can grow because of it as well. And having those conversations there for a long period of time, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, this body of work, and people can keep referring back to it. And not every episode is for everybody. There's some very distressing episodes. There's some episodes that we really get quite raw, but by getting raw, we declassify those stigmas.
Yeah.
And that's why it was called Declassified. It was opening the box and not classifying stuff and not, not having a taboo subject. It was about the stigmas being opened up, and then we can talk about it. And I believe there's no better people, in this country to talk about it than military personnel, because they had such amount of trauma and varied experiences. Really from, like, we did one with Leveson Wood, he's a celebrity, but he's an inspirational chap, and he works hard at what he does, and he's gone on to an amazing explorer and adventurer, and from him right the way through to some of the episodes that we've got coming up, and what we've had. I've just ranted about the podcast there.
No, it's amazing. No, I don't apologise. It's brilliant, because I love what you're doing with the podcast, and I love that it's, like you say, it's called Declassified for a reason. It's breaking those stigmas, and I think that a lot of the problem with mental health is that we've got these ideas in our head that we need to be a certain way, that we have to be the tough person that just braves it out, when actually having examples like Brian Wood talking about his experiences, it does declassify it. It makes it acceptable to talk about, and if you're listening to it, you might think, well, if he's gone through it, then it's okay that I'm going through it as well. So I think it's brilliant. But I just want to reflect back to what you're saying about your business as well, because you've been very modest and sort of brushed across stuff, really. And I think that what you're doing with your business is really phenomenal as well, because most people go into business thinking, I'll put some food on the table or pay for an extra holiday or whatever. But the ground rules for your business, or the pillars really of your business, was so I'm really impressed, seriously impressed, and it just sort of is a testament to the kind of guy you are, really. So
I think it's easy to, people, I know we're still a small business, so 6, soon to be 7, soon to be 8. So we've got the 8 and then 9. So hopefully by kind of January we'll be 9 employed, full-time employed. And we learn all the time. Like, people look and they think they've got it sussed, but where you've got it sussed at 3 people, and then you go back because you need to get to 6 to support everyone else. And so it's a real work, and it's hard work, right? But,
massive learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. But the ability to learn, but the ability to always stay by those first 4 pillars, create clear decision making. It can be bad as well, because you can get too wrapped up in it, and then you don't take the right amount of time off. And I learned the words from David Wiseman on episode 12 of the podcast, where you got to have self-compassion as well and look after yourself. And we've really started to do that a lot more. We give all the team 4-day working weeks, but we might not be doing that to ourselves. So it's about understanding that, and going into the new year, we'll certainly be more aware about that. But but we're very much a values-based business as well. So we set the vision up, but we also talked about our values. And certain times of our life, we've strayed away from them values, but having them written down, pursuing excellence, being open-minded, being happy, all these points, there's about 7 of these points, where if you can refer back to them, and you articulate and you talk about those values, you talk about the vision, and we have a very clear ethos as well about looking after yourself, about looking after the company and the client, about looking after the wider military and the local community, and then the greater good, whether that be recycle business cards, or looking at our vans, how they operate, or how we get rid of our waste. But you can't do one before the other. You have to look after yourself. And sometimes that's not me and Des, particularly not been the right way around. But by having them, where you've got to get back to. And that's what I'd always say to anyone that's starting a business. And if we failed tomorrow, I know that's where we would be. That's where we got it right, was by thinking of whatever you want to call them, but having an ethos about prioritizing yourself and the business, and then whatever you want to achieve after that. And then values, what you stand for. Because if let's say you're if you say you're honest, one of my personal values is honesty, and you're the business owner or you're setting up a business, but you're not honest in business. And then one of them is integrity. You've got no integrity, you've got no honesty. You have to get really clear and true to yourself, and what you stand for and what the business stands for is there shouldn't be many grey areas there. It should almost come. So it's not like work-life balance, it's work-life integration, where you're integrating both. And you as a business owner, whether it's you in a van or you in a kitchen sewing something or whatever it is, you need to be still standing by, or at least trying to get to those values. And then the vision is really like the icing on the cake. So if you can get everything right before, then you can start. But it's a work in progress.
Sure. Well, you can only learn through doing, can't you? You have to get started as well, and having those values up front so you can refer back to them and stay on track is such a massive benefit to steer you in the right direction. So that's brilliant. And and it's come from your military career, your career as a fireman, and reflecting on what your mates were going through, and then you set up this amazing business, and the podcast has come off the back of that as well. Brilliant.
It's like you said, we saw in brackets a problem or an opportunity, and then instead of just saying, oh, there's a problem or there's an opportunity, and then not, like you said, not doing, it's the implementation that's important. And being crap at the start. Can I swear?
Go for it.
I'll swear word. Explicit now on the explicit word. Crap was said. But by starting and just doing something, we'll use an example as a brochure, a simple brochure for your service. Creating a brochure with spelling mistakes, or it might not be as clear as you want it. Creating that and putting it out to market is better than not creating something and aiming for perfection straight away, because perfection is very, very difficult, if not impossible to achieve. Excellence is pursuable. You can aim towards excellence, where you put something out, you test it, you bring it back, redo it, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4, and then by the time you know it, you've got an excellent product and it's Mark 10.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to go, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll either seek advice from someone else or I'll go and test it. Yeah. But always be open to that criticism. But also surrounding yourself, and this is a cliche, but surrounding yourself with positive people as well, and not being, but understanding that sometimes they will tell you harsh truths.
Sure.
That's really important as well. But by exposing yourself and being vulnerable and trying to stay as positive as possible, when sometimes, especially as a business owner, you want to curl up into a ball and watch Netflix for 10 hours, that's normal as well. There's highs and there's lows of owning a business. And sometimes going backwards would be easier. To go back into a van would be easier than going forwards. And it's the risk that you have to take sometimes going forward. So building a business beyond yourself is not for everybody. And sometimes I think, but it's good. And having the vision as well. Like, and when our guys go out, or we've got a great EA who's a military spouse, very switched on, and believes what we believe in. And the lads on the ground, they understand that when the invoice gets sent, when they do a good job, or when they do their job, because they don't do a bad job. When they do the job, it impacts someone else. It does impact the employment. It does impact, literally will educate that child. Yeah. It will make sure someone's looked after, and then it will help me swan off and doing podcasts and speak stuff like that. So there's a thing called interdependency. I mentioned it earlier on, and this was something I look back on my military experience, and that's really important as well. So we have this value that we sit on, and sometimes it's not clear and we don't understand the value we're sat on, either when it's in our business or whether it's in our past experience, and it's looking at the value and you're sat on top. Someone, a great guy called Daniel Priestley's, if you run a business, go speak to, or go have a look at him, an organisation called Dent. He talks about a mountain of value and sat on the top of your mountain. But you're seeing other people's mountains and they look beautiful, but you're sat on top of this mountain, it stinks of shit and there's flies buzzing around you. But everyone else is exactly the same, still stinks of shit, flies buzzing around when you get to the top. But it's then going, what have I got here? Like, what is my mountain, the value within it? And this interdependency came from that. And where you go, well, if someone says to you, well, you must be dependent on a patrol in Iraq or Afghanistan, you must be dependent on the people around you, and you're not dependent on those people, because dependency is taking and not contributing. Where actually independence is really important, because that creates competency and trust, where someone can get on with the job and fulfill that role, whether that be a medic or a 19-year-old carrying the ammunition or whatever. That's really important. Everyone is doing an individual role, but then interdependency is when everyone's contributing and everyone understands that everyone's important to contribute, whether it's the 19-year-old carrying the ammunition or whether it's the medic or everyone in between that. Without that, there's not a successful outcome. So when everyone's working and understand, like in my case, when someone's out in a van clearing pigeon poo up, right, and I'm doing a podcast in Leicester Square, but it's all contributing to the main objective of those 4 points.
Yeah.
And by swaying off those and not, if we're doing something that's not going to contribute, well, that's not the right decision. And I'm the way than anyone then setting up a new project and going, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And then Des will be like, oh, does it align? Is it aligning with what our vision and value stand for? All right, okay. And that's the importance, as well as having someone there to straighten you up as well.
Yeah,
and that's what we do business together, because although similarities are, we have similarities, we both joined the army on the same day and did very similar stuff. We're very different as well. And yeah, so having someone there to kind of slap you in the face, all your ideas are all great, or,
yeah.
Like life, strong partnerships, shared values, it's all good.
Brilliant. Oh, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I really love what you're doing. I think that's amazing. I think more people should go into business with those key values in mind, and just think it's that classic. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, kind of thing. You're going out there asking what you can do for other people before you're asking it doesn't even sound like you are asking for what other people can do for you, to be honest. But no, I love what you're doing, and I think it's brilliant. So I wish you all the success with Employee 9 and however many more you get. And like you say, it's all a learning curve, isn't it? And you can only, as long as you're willing to. And I love that you used the word vulnerable earlier, because that is what it's about. I think a lot of people think vulnerability is about being exposed, but it's not. It's about taking the risks and learning. And the bit that you said as well about post-traumatic growth, that really reflects what I'm trying to achieve with the Be Glad movement. Is people actively, if you're stuck in a nasty place, if you're going through hell, there's the old Churchill saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. But for me, it's about accepting where you are, but looking for the good, looking for how you might be able to use that in the future to either help someone else or to your own benefit. And just always looking for the good things that you can draw out of a bad situation. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. If you like this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and you'll get notifications when new videos are uploaded. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook if you search @Be Glad Movement. And if you've got a story that you'd like to share, please do get in touch. It doesn't matter if it's something similar to what somebody else has shared, because I really believe that your story and your voice has the ability to help someone in their time of need. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you in another episode. Many thanks.